Hello, my name is Landon Barrowman. Welcome to this video lecture series based on the Working Man's Guide to Mental Health. So first, a little background on me. I've worked in the oil sands for over 10 years, and most of that time, I've been part of the fly in, fly out lifestyle. 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. That means being away from family, living in those cramped camp units, and working next to toxic gas plants. I've done the fly-in, the drive-in, and I've spent more hours than I care to admit on the so-called murder highway. For a while, the job gave me stability. I could afford a nice life and support my family, but slowly, everything in my life started to unravel. My relationship with my fiance ended, and I was gone so much that the distance broke us. That led to a painful custody battle, and during that fight, my job was even used against me. I had to fight tooth and nail just to get 50-50 custody of my own son and reclaim a sense of normal. Then came the health problems. I was diagnosed with cancer, and my father also fought a pretty hard battle with a respiratory problem. He later passed away in the hospital. Soon after, my sister then lost her baby, and then I lost my job. Felt like life was falling apart in every possible direction. And to be honest, I was destroyed. Mentally, physically, emotionally, everything around me was coming to a halt. What turned it around for me was discovering cognitive behavior therapy, CBT. This is what gave me the tools to make sense of what was happening to me and to finally organize my thoughts, emotions, and behaviors into some kind of cohesive manner that I could work with. CBT didn't magically fix everything, but it gave me a system, a way to take on my problems, one step at a time. This lecture series and this book are here to share that same system with you, to help you or someone that you care about build all the mental muscle to survive and grow through the hardest of times. Now, I just want to stop for a moment and talk about the harm of fly in, fly out, and drive in, drive out, shifts in the oil sands. There's an excellent report from the sociologists at the University of Alberta that dives into this issue. It shows that fly-in, fly-out workers experience significant psychological damage and reduced life satisfaction compared to people working regular jobs in town. So what does that mean in plain English? It means the kind of work that you're doing seriously impacts your happiness and mental health. And when you're up there, cut off from your family, living in isolated camps, surrounded by stress and danger, that damage just doesn't go away. It builds, it festers, and it starts affecting every part of your life. That's one of the biggest reasons that I wrote The Working Man's Guide to Mental Health, because I saw firsthand how this lifestyle creates not only toxic physical environment, but also a toxic psychological one. It's not just about the job, it's about the stigma around men's mental health. When I first told a few guys about this project, some of them laughed and said, what's your book going to be called? Rub some dirt on it and walk it off? Is it going to be called Living the Dream? And yeah, I actually did consider Living the Dream for a title, because that joke, it says a lot. Everybody up there is making that joke and asking it to one another, but none of them really are. There's this idea that real men don't talk about how they feel, that we're supposed to just bottle it up, push it down, laugh it off, or drink it away. But here's the truth. You can't live like that forever. Over time, those coping mechanisms, whether it's drinking, gambling, blowing your paycheck, or just burying yourself in distractions, they take a toll. You start chasing dopamine just to feel okay, and you get angry more often. You isolate. What was once a release then becomes a habit. That habit then becomes a trap. Sure, escapism can sometimes be healthy. We all need outlets. But when it crosses the line into avoidance or addiction, you're seriously just digging yourself deeper. That's the core issue that this book addresses, is how to break that cycle, how to identify thoughts and behaviors that are hurting you and replace them with tools that can actually help. So this is why I wrote The Working Man's Guide to Mental Health. The book gives you practical tools based on cognitive behavior therapy, or CBT. And no, we're not talking about weed, chronic, or oil pens, whatever else you're thinking. Yeah, sure, that stuff, it might help some folk get through the day, but this is different. This is evidence-based skill-building therapy, and it's designed so that you can use it yourself without needing to rely on a therapist forever. Now, don't get me wrong, traditional therapy has its place, but sometimes it can create this weird dependency where every time something happens, you feel like you need to run to your therapist and ask, what do I do now? Cognitive behavior therapy puts those tools in your hands so that you can use them. It teaches you to ask yourself, what's really going on here? Why am I reacting like this? And what can I do next time? So through cognitive behavior therapy, you learn to respond and not just react. And the way to get there is by examining three things: your thoughts, your behaviors, and your emotions. You start building a kind of a mental map of how you work, where you learn where your patterns come from. And once you start seeing those patterns, you can really change them. That's how real self-awareness starts. And with it comes power. The power to stop living on autopilot. The power to stop breaking those cycles that are bringing you down. In the lectures ahead, we're going to go deeper into each of these tools and methods. But the big idea here is this: when you understand how your mind works, when you build a better relationship with your thoughts and emotions, your entire perception of the world begins to change. And when your perception changes, your experience of reality changes, because of how we see the world shapes how we live in it. That's the real goal of this guide, to help you build consistent, reliable, stable structure of mental health that won't fail you in your times of need. So whether you're working on a 12-hour shifts in the cold or just trying to get through another hard season of life, the Working Man's Guide to Mental Health is here to help you walk that path. These foundational tools of CBT, I started using them in real time when my life was falling apart, like I described earlier. The first thing I began to monitor was my behavior, and what I saw was not pretty. I was drinking heavily almost every night in Fort McMurray, blacking out, skipping work, you name it. It was a shitty coping mechanism, and I was a shitty worker. And I'll be straight with you. Drinking your pain away, it might feel like relief in that moment, but the next day, you just feel even worse. Everybody knows that. So what helped me break that cycle was rating my day 1 out of 10 every single day and writing it down, tracking how I felt and what I did. That's how I caught the pattern. That's how I started replacing that cycle with something positive, something that would actually help me move forward. That's called behavior activation, and we're going to go into it in a next lecture. Next came thoughts. My mind was constantly spinning. The separation, the custody battle, the house, the future, it was all consuming. I couldn't even focus at work, but then I started using thought records. So I would go into the lunchroom with a problem or a thought that I had, and I would write it down and map it out and start using cognitive distortions to see why I might be seeing something that's wrong and why it's not working for me. I do it right there in the lunchroom. And as my thoughts started coming up more and more frequently, I realized I'd already solved this problem and I didn't have to go back to it all the time. That empowered me to realize that I have power over my thoughts and the things that make me upset and mad. That was a huge game changer. And then there's somatic quieting. That's just a fancy term for calming your body when your emotions are running hot. Now listen, I got a man bun and tattoos, and I know how to meditate, okay? I look like a person who knows how to meditate. I do. But I'll be honest with you, I suck at sitting still sometimes. That's why I use a method called box breathing. Box breathing is a technique used by Navy SEALs to calm down their emotions and their nervous system. They use this before training exercises and after training exercises for debriefing purposes. It's super easy, and I'm just going to show it to you quickly so at least you leave this video with one skill. Super simple. You breathe in for a 4-second count, you hold for a 4-second count, you breathe out for a full 4-second count, and then you hold for another 4-second count. But here's the trick. The whole time you're doing it, you imagine a box going around and around. So let's try it once. Now, you don't have to draw a box like I did, but imagine one in your head. You do this enough times, and your whole emotional system, your whole nervous system will start to calm down. Believe me, at first, it didn't work the best for me, but now, in the worst of times, in my moments of road rage where I'm screaming at a guy who just cut me off, this is the stuff that works for me. It calms me down. So I know that it'll work for at least some of you. Here's the thing though, these tools that I'm giving you, at first it's gonna feel a little bit like I'm giving a toddler a screwdriver. You know, you have the tool in your hand and you know what it is, but without practice, you won't know how to use it. So through practice, you're gonna learn how to use these tools and they're gonna start to work for you more and more, but you need to practice to use them. The first time you were handed a screwdriver, I'm sure the screws didn't go in very well, but by now you've used it a million times and they go in easy peasy. So that's kind of what the Working Man's Guide to Mental Health is all about. It's about reclaiming control from the job, from the stress, from the pain, from the stories that we tell ourselves. You can give box breathing a try today. Pause this video for about 2 minutes and just try it. I'm serious. This could really save a lot of problems in your life. You're stressed, you're angry at your wife or anything like that, go into another room, box breathe for a couple seconds and lower your emotional level. That's a huge part of it. Remember, CBT is 3 things. It's doing, feeling, and thinking. That's cognitive, behavior, and emotions and feelings, right? So that's all for the first lecture. Next, we're gonna go into thought records, what they are, how to use them, and how they can help you take power back from those runaway thoughts that keep hijacking your day. So thanks for sticking with me, and I'll see you on the next one. This is a Triskel production for the Working Man's Guide to Mental Health. Thanks so much.